Pro Style Production Network presents The Inside Look.
It's the Inside Look podcast, episode number 11, presented by Birdie's Hydromulching and Planet Pizza. Today's guest is a good friend of mine, the assistant coach of Magi Hockey, Mr. Jordan Willert. Jordan, first of all, how are things, man?
Oh, as we've talked here, Nick, being on these quarantine times, this global pandemic, it's been, a bit of a change, I think, for everybody. But, I got a 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old, so we're trying to run track meets every night, catching up with him. And trying to do some online teaching and online learning, and that stuff's going all right. The kids at the high school are working extremely hard to get done with school, and just trying to keep our sanity. So, other than that, things are going okay, I guess.
It's funny when you talk about that. And when I talked to Scott Cattell last week in the most recent podcast, episode number 10, talking to Scott about going 100 miles an hour of doing nothing but sports to all of a sudden nothing. When you have sports guys and a guy like yourself that not only is at the hockey rink every single day, but teaching school as well, how hard has this been on you, Jordan? Are you hanging in there with everything going on and being under the lockdown?
Yeah, I think when it first started, it hit me pretty hard just because it was such, like you just mentioned, it was such a change to the system. I'm a sports guy. I played college athletics. I'm routine based. I like waking up in the morning and know I'm going to work. And then at night I come home, I'm going to play with my kid and hang out with my family. All that went away for a while. And it just it throws a wrench into the system. I was talking with my wife the other night. This is the longest time in my life that I can remember that I haven't strapped on the skates and gone skating or played some sort of hockey. It's different, right? But they say it's the new norm. We're learning. The rink's opened up, so hoping we can get back to a little bit of normalcy with stuff that way. But like I said, Nick, when it started, it was a bit of a struggle. It's just an adjustment, and then I think once I adjusted and got used to things, it's been okay now.
You talk about being a guy that's been at the rink your entire life and a guy that hasn't gone more than a few days without strapping the skates on. You go down in history as one of the best players to ever come through the Magicians Hockey program. You went on to play Junior A hockey at the highest level in the United States, the United States Hockey League for Tri-City. After that, you go on to Nebraska Omaha for 3 seasons before coming back to Minot State and winning a national title with the Beavers. After that time, you're at the Minot Hockey Boosters as one of the program directors. Then you're at Minot High as an assistant coach for the Magi. You've been around the rink for a long, long time, and we've got a really interesting conversation to have. There's so many things I want to pick your brain on. But before we do that, let's touch on Magi Hockey and the year that you guys had last year. Definitely a year that goes down as one of the best in recent years for Minot High, winning the West Region regular season crown. You want to just touch on the year it was for Minot High Magicians Hockey overall, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was a super fun year, Nick. It's a really, really good group of kids. The 4 seniors that were going out, and then we had a really big junior class, and then you have some 10th graders mixed in there. But it's just a really tight-knit group of kids. They get along. They were a joy to coach. You'd come to the rink and Ben Bonebreak was going to crack a joke, and then Riley Opperud was going to give you a hard time, and then obviously you had Murph Plemmel and Brady and Fillion, your older kids, they were gonna have a good time with you too. On top of that, though, they were gonna work extremely hard, and that's what they did. They're coachable kids. You're able to get on them in a constructive way, and they don't hang their heads or take it the wrong way. They're like, okay, this is what I need to do to get better. And we just happened to run into the WDA tournament. We ran into a kind of streaking Bismarck High team. That Joey Heiner kid just got hot at the end of the season. But then we play Mandan the next day, and obviously the Magician fans know how that went down. It was pretty crazy. We ended up tying the game with less than 10 seconds, and then winning it less than 2 minutes into overtime. So that was pretty crazy. And got to the state tournament, took on that Fargo South team that had some really, top-end talent there with that Senef kid and Sandy. we were right there. It could have easily been 2-1 Magi after one. We had our chances. It was 1-1, and then I think the boys just kind of ran out of steam, and the next day we end up beating Bismarck Century for a third time. That season, like Minot High hasn't done that to Bismarck Century since, I don't know, Nick. It's been a while.
Yeah, you got to go back, and I don't know if there's the first thing that would come to mind would be that 17 season, but that's not true because I'm pretty sure in tournament play Bismarck Century had the number. I could figure it out, but it has been a long time since that has happened.
Yeah, and kind of crazy how the consolation semifinals go to a shootout, but they did, kind of gimmicky. Super fun for everybody. And then the next night, you take on a Jamestown team that's kind of up and coming and has, some really good talent there at the top. And we just came up one goal short there. The kids played extremely hard. And like I said, it was just a fun season to be around. We didn't deal with any outside drama or anything like that. Everybody was great. Everybody worked hard, and that was the fun of it. And the kids got better from the beginning of the year to the end of the year.
13-1 in West Region regular season play. You guys go 18-8-1 overall to end the year in 2019-2020. You talk about the culture of Minot High Magicians hockey and some of those guys that you named. It was a different feeling this year at the rink, being the voice of the Magi on the ice and being able to call those games on the radio on 1390 and on PSP Network. It was just a different atmosphere around the rink this year. It just seemed like, and no knock on any past players. There's no knock here by any means. It just seemed like everybody might have been pointed in the right direction last year, moving towards the same goal. In the future for Minot High Magicians hockey, you only lose 4 of those players that were key cogs in the system. How good is Minot High going to be not only next year but the year after that if everybody continues to point in that same direction, which I believe they probably will?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sky's the limit next season. I mean, you don't want to really quantify anything right now saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I mean, there's still a lot of time. I know here, with the quarantine thing, a lot of kids weren't able to do much for a while. It might actually help some of our kids. We have some kids that need to put on some weight, so hopefully they sat around and ate a little bit. I do know that the gyms have opened back up, and a lot of them are getting back after it. Saw some of them yesterday as we were handing out some of our awards to the award winners. Some of them are they're looking pretty big, so that's good. You hope that some kids come in from your booster program that are going to be able to contribute. We hope that's a thing. But I think you kind of said it, Nick, is last year and hopefully next year, it's not a knock on anybody that came before. I think you had a junior group that were all sophomores the year before that were super young, that learned how to play. They learned how to deal with the rigors of playing in the WDA and North Dakota State high school hockey. They're a year older, and it just, I keep going to that group because there's so many kids from that group that play a pivotal role on our team. Yes, we had 4 seniors that had good leadership, worked extremely hard, were huge parts of our team. But you also have the junior class that's a lot of kids, and, we kind of went how they went. It's just, like I said, not a knock on anybody else. It's just the sheer amount of numbers that group has is how we went. Now, Nick Murphy, Jack Plemmel, Peyton Fillion, Josh Brady, again, true leaders, seniors, great kids, loved coaching them, would go to battle with them any day if they wanted to. They're great kids. So it was just, it was super fun, and looking forward, that junior group coming back, I think is, we talked to those kids a lot at the end of the season about, next year is going to be your guys' year. Like, you're the seniors, you're the group that people are going to look to see how far this team's going to go. And I know those kids are working really hard right now.
You gave some more awards out at the end of the year, and one of them will start with the Rookie of the Year award, went to Zach Deal. 17 points for a kid that just kind of emerged out of nowhere as the season continued, and nowhere is not the right way to say that. He was obviously a good hockey player coming up through the Bantam program, but he was on a team that had plenty of talent above him in that lineup on the varsity for Minot High. Your thoughts on the way that Zach Deal played throughout the year, kind of picking up where his brother Mason Deal had left off a year prior?
Yeah, he actually eerily reminds me of, one of my best friends and a kid I played with growing up, Tyler Lundy, who is, a heck of a baseball player. And it's actually, the correlation's kind of there. Zach's a really good tennis player. So, there's a mechanism sport there where they're swinging a racket, swinging a bat, but his hands are so good. And that's what Lundy was so good at. He was able to stick handle, Zach, and, he never gets too high. He never gets too low. He's just kind of ho-hum and goes about his business. He had a really good year for us. I mean, he scored some extremely big goals for us. I mean, I can think back to Jamestown, when him and Jaden Luck went, absolutely banana lands and had a big game for us. It's just really exciting to see, again, another really good kid, that works hard, and, the sky's the limit for him, sophomore last year. Hopefully he has a decent summer here and he's able to come in and, just build on the foundation that he laid this year.
It's interesting to see that the most improved player was Jaden Luck. And this is a kid that in the broadcast I talked about maybe being the next marquee player, the next Quinn Fuchs, if you will, with the skill and sheer drive that player has. Touch on Jaden Luck just a little bit. 31 points as a sophomore is not a bad year by anybody's standards, and this is a kid that I look to probably see have that point number maybe even double next year. Is that fair to say of what you expect out of Jaden Luck next year with what you've seen over the last 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, 100%, Nick. We did our awards on Facebook, and as I typed on there, it was most improved, not so much from a standpoint of like he needed a lot to improve on or there was a lot to improve on. It's just based off sheer, varsity minutes as a freshman in high school compared to where he was as a sophomore. He obviously, he went, I think it was, I can't remember what it ended, 9 to 12 points somewhere in there as a sophomore or as a freshman. And then to have 31 as a sophomore and like score some big time, goals or be a part of some big time moments. I mean, I can think of, his 2 assists on goals to help us beat Bismarck High at home. Like I mentioned, the Jamestown game down in Jamestown. I mean, it seemed like when we needed something big to happen, Jaden Luck was in the middle of it. He's a little water bug. That kid goes a million miles an hour. His core, from his shoulders down to his knees are, he's probably pound for pound our strongest kid in that area. Him and Aiden Morelli could probably, have a little core it out session and see who's the strongest. But he's just, another kid. He works a 1,000 miles an hour all the time. We kind of joke around with him. We like him to Cade Stibbe. We call him Little Stibbe. He got that cage on his helmet this year. Actually looked like Cade Stibbe. I know he played for the Toros this past year. But littler in stature kids, big games, and that's kind of I think how you describe Jaden Luck. And again, I think the sky's the limit. He's only a sophomore, going to be a junior this year. I know that he's working extremely hard right now in the off season, and he'll be ready to roll again, and that's exciting for Magician Hockey.
Luck is a kid that I talked about as a guy that just has the right attitude when playing the game and being around the rink. He's a guy that you want to see at the rink. He's a kid with a smile on his face and a kid that is a team-first kind of guy from my point of view. And he's a lot like this next player that we're going to talk about, the hardest worker. And it's high school hockey, and I probably shouldn't say this, but this is my favorite player for the Magi for the last 2 years, and that's Riley Opperud. And the reason that I like Opperud so much, Coach Willert, is just that the guy's demeanor on the ice, the way that he goes down and taps the goaltender on the pads, not only after a giant save, but after a goal that's let in. I mean, Opperud does all those little things right, and he's also good with the puck, 22 points on the year. Touch on Riley Opperud a little bit and what he brought to the table this year and why he was awarded the hardest worker award this year.
Yeah, I mean, that out of the, all the awards that were handed out, to me was probably the most spot on and the most earned award. The teammates vote on it. Obviously everybody can see, Riley shows up to the rink every day. He's ready to go. He does what's asked of him. He goes above and beyond that. He works hard all the time. Like you said, he's infectious to be around. He's always got a smile on his face. Always willing to, talk hockey, want to learn hockey. Just an all-around, super kid to be able to coach, as are so many in that group. But he just does it all the time. He played, in high school hockey, they don't keep track of minutes on ice, but that kid was playing, bonus minutes every night. I coached defense. I was throwing him on the ice in any situation that I could. we got down, WDA tournament, stuff like that. The kid was on the ice a lot, and, he battles every time he's out there. Were there certain nights, and I think, Riley would agree with you that, he didn't have it per se. Like, he wasn't great, but the one thing he never questioned was that he was going to work extremely hard no matter what. If he didn't have it, you were still going to get 1,000% out of him. And that's why I think that award is earned. He's a kid that in my mind, after, this next season, hopefully he has a big summer and then a big senior year, like he can play some junior hockey. He just kind of has that it factor, as you touched on there a little bit, where, I think teams, would be willing, they'd be happy to have that. As I said with the other kids, I look forward to him progressing and, getting after it this winter.
The next one is the most special, probably, to Minot High Magicians hockey. And before we touch on Peyton Fillion winning the Brady Sampson Award, how about a little background on this, Coach Willert? You and Brady Sampson go back and were best friends growing up. Your dads were the coaches of Minot High Magicians hockey, John Willert and Gary Sampson. What does this award mean to you before you touch on Peyton Fillion, sharing the memory of Brady Sampson, who had more love for the game of hockey than anyone I've ever met?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big-time award for Minot High. It's a big-time award for me to give out every year. I feel, absolutely honored that, I get to present that award. I usually get choked up just because, Brady meant a lot to so many people, but he meant a lot to me. As you said there, our dads coached together. We spent a lot of time together when we were younger at the rink, hanging out on the ice, running around all seasons arena, rink staff getting after us, late nights after games where our dads would, hang out up at the Sampsons. And, like you said, his love for the game is unparalleled around these parts. Everything that his whole being and everything that he, really enjoyed was Minot High hockey. And, that's just kind of when we're looking at a kid that, we think deserves the award. We look for somebody that came to the rink every day with a smile on their face, worked hard, did well in school. Brady was a 4.0 student, just loved to be at the rink and loved Magician hockey. And I think this year, with Peyton Fillion, I think it was, pretty much spot on. His dad, Tommy, probably goes down arguably as the greatest magician of all time. Peyton has grown up around Minot High hockey. To me, he embodied everything that is Minot High hockey. There was a lot of pride in him, which is big for me to see, to wear the Magician sweater, to wear the Magician jersey. I just think it's a big deal. And, like I said, I think Peyton was a good choice this year. Everything that he did embodied what Brady was and is to Magician hockey.
On to the next one, most valuable player. And this is one that some people might have been surprised on, but you really can't be when you look at what Nick Murphy did in big games and towards the end of the year. Now, this is a player that continued to get better and better. It seemed like every single game that he played in. Touch on Nick Murphy being named the most valuable player for the Minot High Magicians hockey team this year, and a kid that certainly put a smile on your face every time he touched the ice because his work ethic and drive to be proud to be a Minot High Magician hockey player.
Yeah, I mean, where Nick's season finished off to where, I think even Nick would say probably where it started, it was kind of polar opposites. He didn't get off to too hot of a start. But the kid just worked extremely hard. He asked questions. He wanted to know, hey, Willard, hey, Grub, Benny, like, what should I do here? How do I get in there? Like, he wanted to know, and he just kept working. And I think it benefited both of him and Jaden Luck. They kind of found a little bit of a spark together. And like you said, besides Lucky, Nick was probably our most clutch player. He came in big in huge spots. Like I said, I had touched on the Bismarck High game. He had some points and stuff against Bismarck Century. He had, a decent game down in Jamestown. Like, you start going down the list, and especially as we got later in the season when we were playing some big games, some meaningful hockey, Nick Murphy had some big moments from Mount High hockey. The thing that I think's cool about it is, his teammates voted on who should win MVP. Nick got it. I remember the day that we called him and told him that he had won. He was like, "Oh, wow, really?" Nick wasn't expecting to get that. And I think that's pretty cool and kind of a special thing that he'll take with him as he leaves high school hockey and moves on to, school. I think he's probably up on the farm right now helping dad farm. But, he's an infectious kid to be around. I really enjoyed the 3 years that I got to work with Nick. And, I wish him nothing but the best of luck. And it was a much-deserved award.
Last but not least, let's talk about anything we missed from this 1920 season.
We kind of already touched on the other two, but Trey Sortland, I think, that needs to be mentioned. Trey came in as a junior. As a sophomore, he split some games. This year as a junior, he played almost every game. Extremely calm presence back there, worked extremely hard. Again, another kid that, a lot of people might not see because he's a goalie, and goalies are weird and they're stoic and hang out by themselves, but he's super personable. Really enjoy being around him every day at the rink, and he works extremely hard. So I think, that needs to be mentioned there a little bit.
Trey Sortland was fantastic. Anytime you got a kid back there in the pipes that you can count on to know that he's going to make some stops that he probably shouldn't, you're going to be in some more games. What is the confidence level like for you guys moving forward, knowing that you've got a kid back there in Trey that can get the job done?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing that's crazy is it's actually, both our goaltenders that we had last year, both of them come back. You throw in a Noah Conklin, who came in at times, played some varsity minutes and did really well for us. Moving forward, that's a good thing as a coach to have, two goaltenders that that are, obviously Trey's more proven than Noah just based on games played, but Noah proved himself that, hey, I can play some varsity minutes here or there. Especially if, Trey needs a rest or, we just want to go with a different guy. Obviously the confidence level is high. Those two kids hopefully will push each other. I think they're friends. I think they work off of each other and they try to push each other to get better. So, I mean, it's exciting all the way around going into next season, all the way from the net up to, forwards, Jaden Luck, Aiden Morelli, Derwin Hauser, those kids all coming back. It's, the Thong Fett brothers. It's exciting. There's a lot of kids that have now played 2 years of hockey in our system that are going to be here for a third, and it's exciting to see what this team will be able to do next year.
Great job, Coach. Fantastic stuff. Stick around for episode number 2 or part number 2 with Jordan Willert. We're going to talk about your career playing for Mount High all the way until you came back from Division I college hockey to finish out your collegiate career playing for the Beavers, on to coaching and all the good stuff that's coming up in part number 2.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Style Production Network. Visit www.psp.network. Follow us on Facebook at the PSP Network and follow us on Twitter at Network PSP. PSP Network. It's game day.